Hey y'all, I'm back at it again with Roundup after an exhausting couple months toiling away at my subscriber special. Go watch that if you haven't yet, thanks. Anyway, well, April was a pretty great month. For albums, that is. I'll be talking more about these whenever I drop my next album spotlight video, but for now, I'd like to take it a little easier with the individual song releases. I think I've deserved it. Let's jump right into it though. Here's this episode's selection of tracks and singles from April 2024. So, Diamond Jubilee is the latest offering from Patrick Flegel under their Cindy Lee moniker, and okay, here's the thing. I'm going to come back around on this another time, as this is an album I've spent the last few days fully fixated on. There's just so much to unpack with this one, and it's taken up a sizable portion of my brain space ever since listen number 1. Needless to say, I love it, but also, it works a lot better as a full 2-hour project, rather than one to be picked apart on a song-by-song basis. Again, I'll cover it as intended, eventually. With that said, Kingdom Come may very well be the best track of the year so far, and I don't think anything else comes particularly close. Not anything outside of Diamond Jubilee, at least. It's a lovely summation of the record as a whole. Weeping strings and staccato guitars seemingly pulled from somewhere over the horizon, with bright, youthful vocals that, nonetheless, also feel just as detached. And amidst the brightness, there is a bittersweet air to it all, as they lament on a loved one long gone, their presence only tangible within the sound of their music, left far behind to vibrate long after their disappearance. I've listened to the song so many times in the past week alone, it is not any less profound than the first time. Anything is possible, I'll fully admit that, but also, well, I'll be damn shocked if anything else touches me quite as deeply as this one. It's brilliant. Amber Mark is an artist I really enjoy checking into now and again. Her 2022 debut wasn't album of the year material or anything, but I really like neo soul, and I particularly appreciate what she brings to the table. And this is certainly the case with this new song, which might be the strongest I've heard her to date. This smooth and silky R&B atmosphere is so incredibly intoxicating, with the bass-heavy smolder and character-building piano chords filling up the space, occasionally accompanied by some unexpectedly abrasive synth embellishments that bring some more texture to the sound. Also, Amber Mark herself just sounds great. She's not hitting any super impressive notes, fair, but she remains so husky and caramel coated despite all that. It presents itself as just another one of those tunes about hooking up with a new, very attractive fling, but with a certain air of sophistication that she sells so well. I don't know, there's very little that can set me off with a groove this terrific and a voice this captivating, but it's also just a damn good tune at the face of it, and I'm all for it. I feel like I should work on utilizing this series to highlight more lesser-known artists that slip across my radar through the months. Like this one. World News are a jangle pop band based in London with only a scant few single releases under their belt. While I did enjoy their anthemic breakout tune from last year, Wrapped in Gold, it's Back to Hong Kong that's gotten me really paying attention to them. What's impressed me most about this track is how well the band nails that very specific pastiche of tight 80s era jangle pop I rarely see come back around in this age of retro homage. In particular, I'm hearing a lot of Dire Straits in the sound, certainly helped by the firm strut of this rhythm and the mellowed out performance of the vocalist. It's very much a song that feels tailored for a particular set of interests, and I know I surely fit that bill. Whether or not this works at what it's doing is really up to the individual, but I know that I, at least, am grooving along, and that's just fine for me. The Lemon Twigs are, once again, back on their bullshit. I've talked about this band in the past, particularly in the conversation with how much value can be found in as shamelessly derivative of a sound they've made for themselves. And, well, this is no less the case here. Just to rip the bandage off, yes, this is an absolute dead ringer for the psychedelic pop sound of Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. The huge melodies, the layered orchestration, the textured falsetto harmonies, it's all here, and it's practically screaming at you to recognize the sound for what it is. But, I mean, say what you will, it sure as hell works at what it's trying. Every facet of its being feels completely pulled from the sunshiny 60s and 70s, and as such, it's an absolutely glorious listen from top to bottom. I can pick out the obvious influences, sure, but at the end of the day, it's just peak songwriting and production given to us through a filter of blatant inspiration, and I don't know, I can't help but be at least a little charmed by that. It's not going to be a favorite track by the end of the year, but it's certainly worth a listen or two, or a few more in my case.
I'll stay flinging up high beams. I don't care.
I can't say that I'm anything close to an expert on the popular brand of rage and industrial hip-hop making the waves right now, but I am certainly very fascinated by it, and I'm always keeping my eyes peeled for any interesting developments in the scene. Enter Body Meat, the pseudonym of DIY artist Chris Taylor from Philadelphia. High Beams is the first I've heard from him, and boy am I eager to look for more. Unlike a lot of what I've heard from the genre, which tends to stagnate itself into a singular vibe, the song builds upon itself over the course of its length. It begins as a pretty typical trap banger, soon enveloping itself in that signature blown-out bass so familiar to the sound. And even so, the music beneath it all continues to morph and mutate along its fluid timeline, pumping itself more and more as it does so. And by the ends, well, the build-up climaxes to that of a crushing heavy metal climax. I really don't know how else to describe it. I've been all about these types of dark rhythmic bangers lately, and this certainly scratches an itch for me. If any of what you're hearing right now sounds interesting, well, I suggest you check it out right away. After both the Yard Act and Idol's albums from this year were major disappointments in my eyes, I can't tell you how refreshing it was to hear this new single from Irish post-punk peers Fontaines D.C. and just know that these guys still got it. I mean, I've always liked having these guys around in general. Their 2022 album alone only grows on me more with the passing of time, and yet Starburster is something a little different. It's so nice to hear such a big propelling sound coming from these guitars and skittery drum patterns. All of this certainly emphasized by the feverish rap-along vocals of Brian Chatton, who may realistically be one of my favorite post-punk frontmen working today. This song sheds a lot of the gloomy goth rock sound I've known them for, but the amount of color and vibrancy they've given to the sound in return is a great trade-off for sure. Not the hugest fan of the bridge, where it all pulls back to a clumsy ballad-like contemplation, not to mention that most of these lyrics still read to me as total nonsense. Still, I have a strong feeling that this will go down smoother within the context of the rest of the album, and in any case, it is one I am very much anticipating. So, yeah, about my fascination with dark rhythmic bangers that I mentioned a couple songs ago, yeah, with that in mind, there was no way I wasn't going to be fully on board with this one. So Fat Dog is a London band, the newest breed from the UK windmill scene, although unlike their peers like Black Country New Road and Squid, they instill a very strong, sinister dance punk energy with a techno slant that gives them a personality entirely their own. King of the Slugs from last year was already a real treat, but I may be just that more obsessed with this one. The synth riffs that glide through this track are just so addicting, seemingly barking along to this hyperactive rhythm with such punkish fervor. The atmosphere alone has me so enamored, and the directions they take from the sound are all that more fascinating. I'm reminded of Model Actress from last year, but these guys aren't afraid to have a bit of sloppy, unsophisticated fun alongside their deranged animal behavior. The downside is, we have to wait all the way until September for this album to drop, so here's hoping that this wait will be well worth it. And that'll be it for now. Yeah, I think I've deserved some rest. Anyway, there is some cool stuff this month, as there usually is, and I'm hoping something here has piqued your interest a bit. As always, take care, and I'll see you next time.
And he's got no Bible on his chest. He just hides the soul.